more reaction on this. I'm now joined by the leader of the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen. A very good evening to you. When I spoke to you 2 weeks ago, you thought that he hadn't done enough. Is this enough now?
Well, I certainly think that it's the big welcome this evening is the TERS announcement. I think that this is just the news that many businesses that have been suffering over the course of the last while need to know, that it may not be able to make up for the loss of revenue, but certainly might be enough to bridge people over this very, very difficult time of lockdown. Also welcome news on the restaurants, although it remains to be seen how viable this is, given the fact that there is still the liquor ban in place. A lot of those restaurants rely on liquor to be able to get through and to make their money. So it remains to be seen. But certainly I think we're in a better situation than we were in terms of the regulations a week or two ago.
Let's go back to the restaurants. I mean, it's pretty important for a province like yours, isn't it?
Well, I'm from KZN, so I think it's important for any restaurant around the country. I think it's very, very important. I think that they are big employers. They provide a lot of jobs, not only in the restaurant, but the associated supply chains that work around them. There's a lot of small businesses are reliant on restaurant owners, whether they're vegetable suppliers, butcheries, cleaners, exterminators, appliance salespersons. There's a huge allied industry there. So I think that the fact that we can at least get the restaurants open somewhat, I think is certainly welcome news this evening.
He also spoke a lot about the vaccines, obviously. He said they're going to try and extend the days. I mean, it's extraordinary that we don't have it 7 days a week anyway, and to bring vaccine sites closer to where people live. That should make quite a difference.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we're not getting the numbers yet up to where they need to be. We need to be on over 200,000 a day at a minimum to be able to get to that herd immunity. We're very grateful that they've heeded our calls over the course of the last month to allow 7 days a week vaccinations. So glad that Treasury, after pressure from Jordan Hill Lewis and others, have now found the money to be able to provide the overtime and to get those vaccines. But this is all going to come down to supply as well. You can only vaccinate what you have. And so we're going to have to radically ramp up what we get. And this is where I think the president's missed a trick from the beginning, and that is that he should have just simply opened it up to the private sector completely from the beginning and made them a partner in this. It's certainly how it's working in other countries where they've had successful vaccine rollouts. You can get a vaccine rollout at Tesco's or Walmart in the UK or the USA, respectively. I think that we should be harnessing the efficiency and effectiveness of the private sector far more. If South African breweries can get a cold beer all the way to Mazina, I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't be harnessing their experience in supplying and getting and rolling out goods around the country. But I think the big thing tonight where the president missed the trick, if I may say, Jane, was on the violence. I mean, it's not sporadic violence. This is organized violence that's taking place across the country. It's not isolated to a single province, as the president seemed to say this evening. It's in Gauteng now. It's breaking out in Mpumalanga as we speak. There's already been a truck torched on the N4. And this is clearly coordinated. It's an internal ANC battle that is now spilled over onto the streets of South Africa. And I sincerely hope the president's going to match his strong words this evening with strong action. On this particular
he promised
matter,
strong
because
action,
we cannot have,
didn't he? And I mean, he was rather bullish about the economy. He said he's going to be able to kickstart it, get more jobs back on track. But when you see what's happening on the street, I mean, that's decimating any gains that we are making.
Well, look, I mean, the president's always a Pollyanna when it comes to the economy. I mean, he always sees the glass half full. I think the reality, and I'm sure you're going to be speaking to Lucky and others a bit later in the show, will tell you that the economy is bleeding jobs at the rate of knots. So there's an uphill battle there. But the first thing he has to do as the President's Republic, I believe, from tomorrow is to draw a line in the sand and show the protesters that their behavior and lawlessness and looting and activity will not be brooked by this government, and that the rule of law will apply and will prevail. And ordinary citizens, their businesses, their ability to perform their functions and to travel cannot be curtailed by lawless looting and thuggery that we've witnessed over the past week and a half. And it's escalating. It's not getting better. And so those strong words need to be matched by very strong action this evening.
I mean, other than people, we've heard a little earlier on that somebody in KZN has lost their life. We're going to be getting a live on that. A lot of businesses have been targeted, and when it comes to investment, again, this is another setback, isn't it? I mean, our economic policies haven't come to fruition. We've got an energy problem, and this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a perfect storm, a variety of things. There's a decade's worth of poor policy choices that have caught up with us, which is why the economy wasn't growing in the first place. We mustn't blame Corona for the fact where we find ourselves. This is a decade's worth of poor choices that have landed us here. And we're not going to get out of it until we start making better choices. And one of those is in ensuring that the private sector is harnessed to be able to create the jobs revolution that we need in South Africa. Government cannot create jobs, but what it must do is create the environment for jobs to be created. And this lawlessness, this burning of trucks and stock, breaking into bottle stores and looting businesses is certainly the last thing the economy needs at this particular time. It's already on life support. The last thing you need is people pulling the tubes out now by behaving in the way that we've seen over the course of the last little while. And it's really unfortunate that we've lost the first life, but I'm afraid to say I don't think it's going to be the last one if the security services don't step in and nip this in the bud as quickly as possible.
Because it certainly hasn't come as a surprise, has it? John Steenhuisen, good to talk to you. Thank you. You did